Hi everyone, it's Becky here from Ivy's Corner, and in today's mini narrated lesson I'm going to do a tangle which you will probably already know if you've done a Zentangle beginners course or class or lesson of some kind, whether that's with me or with another certified Zentangle teacher. This is one of the tangles that you will usually learn first of all if you're following a Zentangle lesson, and it is Hollibaugh, which is both a tangle and also a key technique in the Zentangle method. So Hollibaugh is essentially the technique of Hollibaugh is really just drawing behind. So if you've placed something on your tile and you then draw another element that kind of tucks behind it, that is known as Hollibaughing your tangle. So I will demonstrate it in terms of the actual tangle itself, which is usually kind of constructed of ribbons, and I will show you how it all kind of works together. So I have in front of me here a small tile, a 2" by 2" square tile that I've self-cut from Fabriano Teplé paper. I have my Micron PN, my Zentangle pencil and a tortillon. And what I'm going to do just to begin with is I'm going to start off by drawing myself a little string to fill a space on my tile. So if you're drawing this tangle, obviously you can place your tangle into a space usually that you've drawn with a string, or you could kind of fill the whole space with it, that also works. But for the purposes of today, I'm going to show you a couple of ways of drawing Hollibaugh. I'm going to start with my string. I'm going to kind of do a soft-sided square, I'm going to call it, like so, and I'm now going to pick up my pen and dive straight in with the tangle. So Hollibaugh is generally taught as, in its basic form, as kind of ribbons almost, or sometimes planks of wood they're sort of described as. And I'll show you kind of the basic setup of Hollibaugh first of all. So to start with, I'm going to draw a line from one side of my space to the other, just like a simple straight line like this. And then I'm going to add an aura. Now, an aura is another key term in the Zentangle method that you've probably come across, and it is to draw alongside a line that you have already placed and draw around that space. So I'm just going to aura this line, keeping my aura at a sort of a similar distance across the whole line, like so. And so there's my first ribbon that's crossing this space. I'm now going to turn my tile and do another ribbon coming across in a different direction. And these ribbons can be in any kind of random direction that you like. But the key thing with Hollibaugh is that you draw your line as you did before, except this time you're going to stop when you reach the line that you previously drew. So you're going to draw up to this line, stop, lift your pen, imagine that you're drawing behind that line, and then continue on the other side. And then you're going to aura that line again in the same way, up to this line, lift your pen, and then continue. So this is the key Hollibaugh technique. It's drawing behind something that already exists on your tile. And this is the basic way that you would go about drawing Hollibaugh. You would just do lots more of these kind of ribbons within a space, and there's lots of kind of different ways to shade it, and I'll show you that too. So I'm going to just draw a couple more of these here across this space, and you can vary the width of your Hollibaugh ribbons or planks, and then as you start to fill your space you can draw underneath or behind more of the spaces that you've already drawn on the tile. Now as you begin to kind of do a little bit more with Hollibaugh, you might like to experiment with a couple of things. So you might like to add a curved Hollibaugh in, and another thing that I really like to do with Hollibaugh is, if you imagine that this space it kind of looks like these Hollibaughs are dropping down behind the outer kind of level of this space that we've drawn in, so they're sort of beneath this area, and obviously shading will bring that out a lot more. One of the things that I really like to do with Hollibaugh is to almost imagine that your Hollibaugh strands are wrapping around the space instead of dropping behind them. So, and to do that, it's quite simple. All you would do is draw another 2 lines together like so. And except rather than leaving them open at the end, I'm going to just do a little curve on the outside, like so. And it kind of then looks as if this is wrapping around that space. I'm going to do another one here. And going to just cap off those ends to make it look as if they are kind of tying around, squishing in the outside string line that we've drawn. Now, one final very quick thing I'll show you. It's very difficult to put too much into this tile because it's only very, very small. And one of the quick things I'm going to show you how to do is just doing something a little bit more whimsical with your Hollibaugh. So rather than just always drawing straight lines, you could try doing a nice curved line with your Hollibaugh like so. And if you want to be even more whimsical and crazy with your lines, you could even take it off the tile. So it's like it's exiting this space altogether and disappearing off the tile here. So there we go. I've filled my space with Hollibaugh. I'm going to just do one more little one that's going to come through here and have it wrapping around the edge again like the others. You can vary the kind of width of your bands or your ribbons like so. There we go, there's our Hollibaugh with a few different options and techniques that you can try. So I'm going to pick up my pencil now and start showing you how I would go about shading Hollibaugh. Now, a typical kind of lesson I've seen with Hollibaugh is that you would end up shading around where these bands cross, so you can place a little bit of shade either side where one plank or ribbon goes beneath the other. But actually, one of the things I really like to do with Hollibaugh is simply to shade along the whole length of each one, because I find it is quite dramatic shading and it does a really good job of giving depth without having to be too fiddly in terms of the shade. And you would always obviously draw across anything that your band is crossing. So I'm drawing across this one here because this band is on top of this, but then I'm lifting my pencil and not shading across here because this is below this one on top. So you can just pick whichever side you like for each of your Hollibaugh bands. And then obviously if you wanted to, you can add a little bit of extra shading where some of these other ones go over the top too. But simply adding a little bit of shade to one side is a really effective way of shading this tangle, I tend to find. And then we'll just do this long one here, like so. So I'll soften all of this and show you how that looks once it's been softened into the tile. And we're just creating a little bit of a gradient with our tortillon. So I'm not going to be pulling the graphite far away from the edge of the pencil that we've placed. My tortillon is a little blunt, so it's not very precise. But that's not too important, just for my demonstration. Just softening these little points here where I am doing both sides. There we go. So you can see there how that is looking really effective already. And the other thing I'm just going to show you is the difference between having these bands wrapping around the outside of my string line and the ones that drop beneath, because what you're then able to do with the ones that drop beneath is just follow the string line round like this and almost have it so that these bands are kind of falling behind our string line. But I'm not going to do that over this one and any of the ones that I've capped at the end because they are on top of our string line, if that makes sense. And this one over here too. And so I'm just going to go around and soften the edge there. And I'm going to blend in the edges there so that our Hollibaugh ribbons are like disappearing beneath our string line. Just taking care not to blend over the ones that are outside. And there you have it. That's just a very quick demonstration of Hollibaugh as a tangle and a technique. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Please do hit like and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I post regularly on here and also on my other social media channels. You can follow me on most channels at Ivies_corner_arts. Hop over to my website to join my mailing list, look at my shop if you're in the UK, and also have a little check out of my courses and free lessons that I have available. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.